Just because a show is popular doesn't mean that everything about it holds up under close scrutiny. The Flash, a show famous for its use of time travel, is known for having gaps in its narrative logic and a ton of plot holes. No TV show is perfect. Every story is likely to have some element that you ignore because it doesn't make sense or doesn't work with the rest of it. And TV shows have to fill up way more airtime than movies and are therefore way more likely to have more mistakes. The budget constraint. The Flash included several really bad-looking characters in every season, even if the show lacked the funding to produce visually stunning visual effects. Due to financial constraints, The Flash was unable to produce as many complex battle scenes as it could have, which harmed the show because The Flash is a hero whose abilities must appear impressive on film. The Flash's budgetary constraints were evident in the show's use of phony-looking Fuerza, and the decision to have Godspeed and the Flash battle with what appeared to be lightning-shaped lightsabers. Inconsistent acting. The Flash shares a problem with a number of other long-running television programs. Its acting has been inconsistent across its 9 seasons. Some actors were alternating between strong and less impressive performances, even during the height of the popularity of the series. Even though that issue might trouble viewers who decide to re-watch The Flash's 9 seasons, some actors, including Gustin, Jesse L. Martin from Joe West, Candice Patton from Iris West Allen, and others, gave excellent performances that ranged from tragic to humorous throughout the program. Too many villains are speedsters. A prodigious number of speedster villains opposed Barry Allen throughout The Flash's 9-season run. Villains such as Godspeed, Zoom, Savitar, and Reverse Flash faced out against him. As some of Barry's primary adversaries in the comics, and ones who helped the hero push himself beyond his limits whenever he faced one in the series, it seems natural that The Flash featured a lot of speedster enemies. But that habit got old fast, especially when the show opened with 3 speedsters in a row playing the major antagonists. A larger role for The Flash's rogues could have addressed this issue though, as the speedy enemies turned out to be The Flash's most compelling antagonists, whereas the main villains who aren't speedsters are less fascinating. It was better in its first few seasons. While there have been some good stories in later seasons of The Flash, the series was never better than during its first few seasons. The Flash Season 1 opened up the fantastical side of the Arrowverse, which had only seen the grounded Arrow at that point. The Flash's first few seasons focused on world building, introducing concepts, powers, events, and character dynamics that would serve as the foundation of the show for its whole run. The slow unveiling of Reverse Flash's plot in Season 1, the shock twist of Zoom and Savitar's identities, Team Flash fighting against time to save Iris's life, and more, stand as some of The Flash's best stories. Season 10 had great plans that would have given the Arrowverse a better ending. The Flash Season 9 brought the Arrowverse to a close, but because succeeding seasons of the program were divided into graphic novels, which were shorter storylines that unfolded across a season's worth of episodes, The Flash Season 9 lost out on opportunities to give the series and the Arrowverse a better conclusion. The Flash Season 9 plans would have been quite exciting for fans of the Arrowverse if the show had continued. The 10th season of The Flash would have included the Green Lantern tale, Blackest Night, brought the Justice League of the Arrowverse together to battle Despero and his extraterrestrial army, and much more, providing a more grandiose conclusion of the Arrowverse. Made great villains from the comics forgettable. The Flash ended up failing some great villains from the comics. The Flash's rogues played a more important role in the show's early seasons, but were mostly forgotten by the series as it went along. Worse than that was how The Flash treated 2 powerful villains from the comics. Godspeed was used to exhaustion, but at the same time never felt menacing. And as for Red Death, who was a dark speedster version of Batman in the comics, the villain was written poorly, and not even the return of Batwoman's Javicia Leslie could save the role. Red Death was defeated somewhat easily in the end, missing the main antagonist. A major issue with The Flash's latest season is that introducing its main villain takes far too long. The best seasons of the series have built up their respective villains over 23 episodes. In contrast, it isn't until the final 4 episodes of Season 9 that The Flash finally introduces its final villain, Cobalt Blue. And it even takes an additional 2 episodes to feature his actual villainous turn. The Red Death arc didn't live up to the hype. Before the release of The Flash's 9th season, the CW greatly built up the introduction of the Red Death. A combination of Batwoman and The Flash from an alternate timeline, the Red Death served as the main antagonist of the first few episodes of the season, but ultimately fell flat as a villain. While Red Death had promise as a villain, her arc was rushed throughout a handful of episodes. Ultimately, the villain was defeated far too easily, making her Arrowverse debut extremely disappointing. Had the show spent more time with her character, the Red Death might have been more than yet another forgettable Arrowverse villain. The Flash's final episode disrespects major villains. The Flash's final episode saw the return of several long-absent Arrowverse villains, including the Reverse Flash, Zoom, Savitar, and Godspeed, who teamed up with Cobalt Blue to defeat Team Flash. However, these characters would have been better off had they never returned to the series. The series finale utterly disrespects each of these iconic villains, as the lesser-powered members of Team Flash easily defeat them one by one. Even the Reverse Flash, who has been built up as the show's big bad since its very first episode, is last seen after being easily knocked out by side character Allegra Garcia, an underwhelming way to write off the show's undisputed best antagonist. The Flash forgets that Barry Allen is the main character. The Flash suffers from an unforgivable fault in that it forgets who its main character is. Grant Gustin's Barry Allen is the undisputed highlight of the Arrowverse series, yet there are multiple episodes in the show's abbreviated final season where he is almost entirely absent. Disappointing final season. The Flash's final season features one of the poorest Arrowverse endings ever. The rating on the show has been declining for years, and Season 9 doesn't really make much of a difference in this regard. Rather, the last season of The Flash continues its lazy writing, leaving aplenty to be desired. The Flash feels like a shell of its former self in these latter seasons, with hurried stories and terrible dialogue. While other characters fill the void in each episode's length with pointless antics, major character events such as Allegra's superhero debut and Keown's developing skills are carefully brushed over. Unfortunately, the massive action that elevates a superhero story to a fascinating level is absent from The Flash's last season. The Flash's tight budget forces it to eschew big action scenes in favor of tedious battle scenes at the conclusion of each episode. Even The Flash's speedster clashes, which were always its highlights, seem a bit bare in the most recent episodes. The Flash's final episode left fans disappointed with its underwhelming performance. Despite the series' earlier successes, the conclusion failed to meet expectations, leaving some of the viewers disappointed. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more discussions on your favorite shows. Until next time, stay speedy.